cultural arguments. Delegate. Today we celebrated 25 years milestone of the Women's Charter. This is not the first province. We went through all the 9 provinces, and this is very important. So everybody that spoke right through, and even Mrs. Modise in the morning, she showed us importance of patriarchy and women in general and the program that we are busy with. So in order to effectively take stock of the achievements we've garnered as women and as society and as the equality in South Africa, launching pads to kicking all of us were part of the sessions that was held right through all 9 provinces. And it was very good for us to be part of that sessions, the rights regime in its entirety, particularly as they pertain to the national gender machinery, gender budgeting process, and related matters. In the morning, we heard the processes will culminate in the adoption of improved and legislative oversight mechanisms, while advancing to remove all structural, institutional, and cultural barriers that, in conclusion, started before the last century. The 9th August 1956 march against the carrying of passes bears testimony to the collective strength. They took the march against the carrying of passes, and it bears still testimony today. They have determination because all of them across races, they were together and they were united. That's why they could defeat this process which they were fighting for. Today, in the Netherlands, in January 1990, we hold the view that there's a need for some kind of an organic structure that will take up broader issues of women in South African society. I salute you. Malibongwe. Like I said, all of us must stick to time because I know it's very late and most of them are tired, but I also don't want us to do what's not right. And we really want this program to be a success, important program. And I think we can start with the social cluster overview, which is Mr. N. Roo, the one that must give us the stats of South Africa. Thank you very much.
Very much, ma'am. Let me just quickly share it, ma'am.
Okay, you can do that.
Very much, ma'am. Let me just quickly share it, ma'am.
Okay, you can do that.
There you go. Thank you very much, ma'am. I'm Neil, a Stats Council meeting today was arranged a while ago. I'll be doing the presentation on Bojanala, Platinum, and Ngaka, Modire, Molema, particular districts. South Africa has got a population of about 60 million people, 59.62 million to be exact. Northwest Province is the third smallest province in terms of population size, with a population of about 4.1 million, distributed equally amongst the 4 district municipalities in party, and makes up 47% of the total population of Northwest. And while Ngaka, Modire, Molema makes about 22%, the 5th. So these two, particularly Bojanala. Now, this can actually be seen very clearly when one has to look at the gender distribution. One would normally you'll normally find a higher percentage of females. And we'll see in the next slide that this is really driven by the largest district in Northwest, which is Bojanala, in which 53.3% of the total population are males. Now, that's almost directly due to in-migration into platinum-rich and mining-rich areas around Rustenburg. So that represents much more what one expect. In other words, a smaller male representativity, 48.5 people. So I think in this case, it's very important to maybe flag Bojanala in terms of its male dominance and also the migration rate. That it's Northwest Province is a relatively young province, 51% or 32%, almost a third of the total population, and about 60% of the total population are youth and adults. In other words, it's a working class or working age population. This is pretty similar, I guess, to the South African population. Now, where do people live? Studies, particularly a general household survey that was used for this particular survey or this particular graph, shown that about almost 1/2 of all children only lived with their mother at the time of the survey, whilst about 19%, almost 20% of children don't live with either their parents. In other words, they lived with either a grandparent. Only about a third or so of these children live with both parents. Now, these have implications. You've heard earlier today. It was mentioned is, and also in this case, since we are going to talk about poverty, I think it's very important to realize that many instances where people don't live with their parents, particularly the one-parent families, smaller incomes, and also when they don't live with either of their parents, of course, they often live with their grandparents who's dependent on grants and other sources of income. Now, again, looking at female-headed households, household member. In other words, they didn't earn any money from male-headed households. So it's clear that your chances of having living in a higher income household is much larger if it's a male-headed house and other family members during the school years. One can also extend this to say that 47% of the Northwest population is considered poor. And to remind you, the lower bound poverty line means that it refers to people that have less than 840 rands per month per person to live on, to buy food and other necessities. We've got other poverty lines, which I'm just not going to go into here. I think it's important to realize that this 47% or this amount of money, of course, has increased over time according to inflation. I think that's the important thing I want to show you is that the unemployment rate of Africa, the poverty rate is about 40%. 40% of the total population lived under 850 rands, while in the area. Gender makes a big difference, whereas 44% of male-headed households with female-headed households not having people of income. Another important point, and I think this is something that has been repeated quite a lot by education and people's income. People with no schooling are much more likely to be poor than the people who had some kind of education past matric, degrees or certificates or other qualifications. One can actually also look at multidimensional levels of poverty. That is, in other words, moving away from just looking at how much income you generate through grants and through salaries and wages and so forth, but by education, free education, it would include water, light, other things. And those will then combined, those would give you an indication of what the person's quality of life is. Now, it is a bit disconcerting to note that the multiple deprivation is slightly higher in the Northwest than in South Africa as a whole. The percentage for South, you see that the highest multiple deprivation is actually in Dr. Roof, and it's low, which is 8.8%, and Modire Molema at 10.6%. Bojanala, of course, a mining district mostly, very large industrial areas as well, so much more employment in that area. This slide only shows you how these various factors that I spoke about are weighted, and as you can see, unemployment is carrying the much higher. Is a slide that indicates to what extent households have indicated their main source of income. In the Northwest, about half of all households indicated that salaries or wages was their main source of income. It is disconcerting, however, to note that about a quarter of all households indicated that 12% indicated remittances, often received through migratory practices, were their major source of income. Other sources of income, like farming and business and so forth, only made up about 9% of the total income sources. It's important to also look at services. Bojanala, you'll see that about 71% of households live in formal dwellings, and that is by far the lowest compared to all the other districts, including the highest. Again, that's because of the high immigration into that area particularly. In that districts, of course, a lot of people are migrants, and that's also the area in which a lot of labor unrest and has taken place. As recently as 3 years ago, of course, we had the Marikana incident as well. If we have a look at some of the services in terms of sanitation, for instance, here, we can see that the Northwest province is actually lagging South African average. Only 70.6% of households had any kind of improved sanitation, which is lower than the South African average. And again, it's driven by largely the largest district in the province. In terms of access to electricity, Northwest is really straddling very much the average for South Africa. And over the years, there's not really been a very great increase. And that has really been because of the high immigration. Again, these three districts is Bojanala at about 84%, and then Ngaka, Modire, Molema at about 82%. Electricity is 5%, and Bojanala it was 41%. It's much lower, for instance, than Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, which is, of course, a much smaller districts. We know that agriculture, of course, is extremely important. In these days, we're talking a lot about land, and it's unfortunate in that sense to see that Northwest Province is the province of the third lowest participation in agriculture after Gauteng and Western Cape, which of course are much more urban the scale of agriculture. And we define this very broadly to include having a few cattle or even having small pieces of land, etc. So this is definitely a field, I think, where a lot of work can be done. Now, where this really becomes very important, as you can see in the Northwest Province, 28.5% of female-led households indicated that they were ran out of money to buy food compared to 23%. And if you then look at Bojanala, for instance, which is slightly better, that is largely due to the fact Modire Molema here, you've got still about 31%. So females much more disadvantaged, and the absolute levels as reported that they suffered some kind of hunger during the previous year. This would be the year before the 2018 violence ever experienced. It is again very disconcerting to note that about 29.4% of females in that 11.8%, which is the highest level across all the provinces, ever experienced any kind of sexual violence. These figures are, of course, probably an underestimate, but it's still a very good indication of what women are still suffering in 2020. And with that, I thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Neil. Thank you very much, Neil. I think after all the presentations, the next presentation, Mr. N. Madibula, Financial and Fiscal Commission. Will you be able to? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay. Afternoon, honorable members and colleagues. My name is Nomo Madibula. Can I continue?
Sorry, Ms. Madibula. Somebody's we are open. Please mute. They're disturbing us. You can proceed.
Thank you, ma'am. The presentation will briefly highlight on the role of the FFC, the research that the FFC has done on gender budgeting, the recommendations on the issue, as well as concluding remarks. Next slide, please. I will just highlight here that FFC, as we all aware, is a constitutional body, the spheres of government, as well as organized local government structures. The next slide. Please pass on this one. Just as to take off from what said, the FFC is also of the view that despite government commitments to gender equality through the various policies and measures, there are still unacceptable gender inequalities in the country. Just to make an example, that Black female-headed households are the poorest of the poor, according to the stats. But if you have to compare between females and males, you find that females, they take the largest proportion of this of being poor in terms of quantiles. The next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. Is the intergovernmental fiscal relations system, where the FFC is of the view that it's of the to address issues of poverty and equality and inequality. And one of the ways it can do that is through doing things differently in terms of policy design, especially the implementation, so as to ensure that there is genderness of municipal budgeting process. When it did this study, the FFC followed two processes. which was randomly selecting 30 municipalities. Of those 30 municipalities, as well as the Ketleng River municipality was also one of the municipalities that was part of that selection. Also, FFC used a case study in this instance in these provinces with the aim and are faced with, which looked at the local economic development programs, the water and sanitation, the early childhood development, as well as the women. They do indeed address some of the challenges that women are facing on a daily basis. Next slide. What came out was that there is indeed lack of gender mainstreaming and women empowerment as an approach. To take the example of the Modire, Molema district municipalities, in terms of finding out their gender budgeting programs and their implementation, where we looked at, do they have LED programs? Do they have programs on their programs on gender budgeting? Also look at gender equality and equity, women empowerment program, where it indicated that yes, it does have women in this post. Other than that, there was not much. Also the LED programs, the municipality that I've mentioned, which was the Ketleng River municipality, didn't have any. So it's general findings of the municipalities that were also randomly selected. What we found also was that there is lack of gender disaggregated data, where data is available for between the genders, which is male and female. You find that it is used only to profile the population of the municipality. It's not used to target in terms of the programs that the municipality is supposed to be implementing, so that there is gender mainstreaming. Also, as I've indicated, it has become more of equity measures that are in place in terms of gender, but in terms of equal opportunities, weak translation of gender equality commitments into fiscal commitments. What we mean by this is that the IDPs show little evidence of the manner in which the IDP planning process and budget offices doesn't exist. The next slide. The results from the case study of national agenda on women empowerment and gender equality into local programs. There is limited data in terms of female and male. Mostly Women's Day, you find out something that the municipality will be doing, and after that it's closed. So it means it's done on an ad hoc basis, and it's not sustainable. Where the FFC found that those that are in position to make change, they don't have training to make sure that they continue budgets. What we mean by this was that from the early phase of the planning, gender responsive budgeting and programs should be a part of the APPs of the departments, but you find out from the beginning of the budget processes expenditure. Next slide, please.
Sorry, Ma'am Bula. It seems that some of our delegates. You can proceed.
Okay, thank you. So the research was that there is absence of an approved gender policy across municipalities. There is absence of municipal gender mainstreaming strategy. As I've indicated, if it's not on the strategy, it's not on the APP, then how is it going to be implemented? Expenditure that has been set for this, and what are the outcomes? They have limited knowledge in terms of doing this role. Also, gender equality indicator, LED programs, there is limited or none that is reported on ECD programs, which we know that they do alleviate the plight of women. You find that most at local government, they don't have information on this, or if it's there, it's very limited. Recommended in this instance was that the national and provincial governments should run gender budget. The FFC is of the view that these pilots could be linked to ensuring gender disaggregated data for key conditional grants. We are talking in this instance that conditional grants on water and sanitation programs, infrastructure grants. We're also talking about ECD grants, as well as the other grants that these pilots should start at that phase, and then it can be rolled out. Development plan, institutionalized gender planning by sector. As I've indicated, sectors like water and sanitation, the LED sector, they do contribute towards alleviating some of the pressures that women are faced, budgeting good practice guides and toolkits. Also, the FFC recommended that the national and provincial, that municipalities have the capacity to analyze this budget from a gender perspective. As I've indicated, that some of the municipalities, when they have this data between female and male, it's more about population of that programs that we have, so that we make sure that they are gender sensitive. When the FFC recommended its recommendation, there was a government response. The response was that government supports the proposal, which will ensure that the collection and allocation of public resources is effectively carried out, and contributions of men and women, boys and girls within the existing revenue allocation, and it will call for adjusted budget policies to benefit all groups of the society. The status when this recommendation was tabled was that the Department of Women and Youth and Person with Disabilities was engaging National Treasury on slide. At the local government, also the FFC recommended that the local government should institutionalize gender responsive budgeting process linked to their IDPs, as I've indicated earlier, approved, so that the implementation can take place. The local government should build capacity for gender mainstreaming and gender. They are not sure exactly what is it that they are doing. So the FFC is of the view that the capacity and the training in this instance, that it should be at the early stage of the budget process, so that it can be planned and it can be executed. Also, the local government should ensure gender-sensitive public participation and consultation at the local level. And other policy measures can indeed address gender bias and discrimination. Government at the time indicated that it is a step towards increased accountability and public transparency, and it can shift economic policies to policies leading to this. At the time when this recommendation was made, there was no record of the progress of whether what happened to the recommendation and how it would be implemented by government. The next slide. This slide, it's sort of, I'm at the concluding remarks. There is the Municipal Fiscal Powers and Functions Act of 2003. When FFC looks at these acts, the FFC is of the view that these acts, they need to include gender budgeting or gender responsive budget, with the view that once it's in the act, then it can be able to be implemented, because at the current state, these two acts don't mention anything about gender responsive budget. So the FMing, so that it can be able to be implemented. And the FFC is of the view that it will indeed lead in the, I think on this slide, I will say thank you, ma'am. And also I would like to indicate that in this year's meant to find out where is the problem? Is the problem at the budget process when decisions are taken? What is National Treasury doing? Does it also tell the provinces or the departments that before you give us the budget, before your budgets can be finalized, have you included gender responsive budget in your programs? We want to see that before we can approve. So we are hoping that by FFC following in terms of making sure that come the following years, the implementation effectively takes place. Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you very much. You really took your 15 minutes. I was kind of, I know this thing of gender budget is very close to our hearts. Can we go to the next presentation? The councillor that will take us through the Gender District Integrated Development Planning, please. Councillor Siatlole. Executive Mayor, are you here? The Mayor here? He just indicated the councillors here.
Yes, here, ma'am. She must just unmute.
Please, please. Ne? Okay, thank you very much. He's still struggling. Thanks, Carl.
I'm representing the women in the Ngaka Molema district. The name of Ngaka Molema came from in the Ngaka Molema district. It comprises with 5 local municipalities, which are Ditsobotla, Ramotsere, Ratlo. I'm gone happy. Where am I? Am I in, ma'am? Chair.
Yes, you are in. You are in.
Okay.
You're
Okay.
audible.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Yes, like I said, the Ngaka Molema is comprises of 5 municipalities, which is Mafikeng, Ratlo, Ditsobotla, Lihurus, and Ratlo. Of drought, as we know, the municipality does not have an existing gender policy in place. We are using the equity policy when coming to issues of women. The municipality doesn't adhere to gender responsive budgeting process, although at a small scales, because sometimes after the budget, the money will be derived and channeled to other district municipality. We have a women caucus, like I come together and discuss and have some way forward. We have a structure called Bahumahadi, which are the women of the Khosi. Structure machinery, yeah, women in agriculture. They are helping us a lot because most of the women that are residing at we call them farm dwellers. There is a very, very serious crisis there. They don't know how to report the violence and how to apply for, e.g., what is that? A protection order like. So those are the people who are being helped by the women in agriculture. Under Women Charter, experience one or more forms of gender-based violence. We remember, Chair, that the violence can be sexually, emotionally, financially, and otherwise. So the gender-based violence and specific cases of sexual violence have become a highlight violence communication strategy with a view to begin a district-wide awareness campaign. As I alluded, Chair, that people who are farm dwellers, they are not, they don't have the access to the police station because they are late to them, as we are representing all the women in this district. Under the domestic violence, force, early marriage, and other forms of gender-based violence, the district to date has a total number of 1,024 cases reported and provided with psychological assistance through various services point. You don't make an appointment, you just go there. There are people who are counseling, and we've got a place of call to Tuzela who would have catered for the victims. Women are often held responsible for the domestic violence perpetrated. That our district it's 95% rural. Some of them, they'll say, no, let's sit around the table and negotiate. We don't have to take your father to jail. Who would provide for that? Physical abuse is often accompanied with verbal. Elderly and disabled women are also subject to this type of abuse. Domestic violence also takes part in and not used to this LGBT. So as the chairperson of women caucus in the districts, I will make sure that we'll go and alert them. Children witness domestic violence and are also victims who are deeply affected or even traumatized by such violence. One is for every married woman have reported having experienced at least one of type domestic violence. I would attest to that, to say there are many cases in the farm dwellers that are not reported, that end up having this actually molested. They can't go to the clinic. There's no case reported. Domestic violence, especially intimate partner violence, accounted by being the highest among circumstances surrounding incident of GB meant for the protection, not excluding the workplace. And other sectors department in campaigning aim at the scourge of gender-based violence. We have partners of health and subs and social development. Under program of gender we are saying we are having this activity that we are planning. It will be awareness for women and farming. It's an ongoing process. It will be monthly because we've got so many farms around our district. It doesn't need. I'm sure I'm audible enough. We are having radio interviews and jingles. Radio promo, creating awareness on GBV. Telephonic interviews with counselors. They do call us to say, I've got a child who's been raped or an stakeholders. Those are what we are going to do. Date is weekly, and everybody amongst all of us, even in the local municipality, must contribute to how to treat this scourge. Visual press conference. We are going to use media because we know that the regulations of COVID doesn't allow us to together with a high number. Date, it will be monthly because it will be monthly, as this is an everyday thing. It doesn't go local media, both print and electronic media, to community treatment, high, no cost, all municipalities. Facebook page awareness unfolds. It's going. Honorable Chair, the latter speaker has alluded the challenges that we are having in. The next one is we don't have a gender policy. The second one, Chair, which are the challenges? We are doing that budget, but it's not implemented as our wish as women. The other thing is that lack of adequate policies and system in place. See, our women, if you drive around Ngaka, Molema, you see women picking up woods in the field because lack of economic electricity is very low to us. The high unemployment rate, especially amongst women who are predominantly residing in the district. Honorable Chair, let me take this opportunity to acknowledge the women in this district of taking, they are wearing their mask, they are adhering to this. So I honestly thank them.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I was actually very violence, but then you correct yourself. Thank you very much. It's very much important for us to correct that. Can I just ask, thank you very much. We are just going to the last presentation, and it seems that there's a disturbance. I'm not sure what is going on. Can we go to the last presentation, Councillor Molesiwa?
Thank you very much.
Can you just... Okay.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm waiting for them to flat the screen, or can I continue?
Let's give, okay, thank you. You can.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Let me take this opportunity to greet you. Good afternoon to all members of the Parliament, MPLs, all councillors, and all protocol observed. Let me express my gratitude to be part of today's session on women charter in the district. Next slide. Our current challenges in the 20th century in Bojanala remain unemployment, poverty, and gender-based violence, which we face over and above the Bojanala district, while clearly advocate for us women finding space in the economy and wealth of this country. Bojanala, Moretele, Moses Kotane, and Rustenburg. The majority of its citizens speak Tswana, and district is a mayoral type of municipality. Its biggest contribution to the economy of South Africa, and certainly to the Northwest Province where it is situated, is the mining of platinum. Function to district municipality to ensure district-wide integrated planning and integrated development, as well as to ensure financial. Bojanala Platinum District Municipality has devolved almost all powers and functions allocated to it as a district municipality in terms of Section 84 Municipal Structures Act. The district municipality, therefore, does not execute functions typically allocated water, electricity, sewer, and water service authority. The district municipality only performs the following few powers of the district municipality as a whole, which includes planning, coordination, and regulation of fire services, specialized firefighting services such as mountain, field, and chemical fire services, coordination of the standardized of infrastructure, vehicle equipment, and procedures, training of fire officers, promotion of local tourism for the area of the district municipality. Based on review of the above powers and functions, it can be noted that none of these powers mainly characterized
by cost drivers rather than generators of revenue. Fees collected from any of these services, if any, are not expected to be of much significance. They will be levied to cover the administration of the service itself. The rest of the powers and functions allocated to a district in terms of section, therefore relies heavily on grants to cover all expenses. The district and some of its locals have gender policies in place with special project offices located in the offices of the mayors to advocate for programs aimed at women. Public participation in municipalities should ensure that at least 50% attendees are women and youth. The district and its local municipality have gender-responsive budget located in the women desk of special project in the offices of the mayors or executive mayor. Mainstream gender programs in far-fetched areas. Gender programs are administered through this budget. The women forums have been launched throughout the district. Women caucuses in municipalities have been established to enshrined in the Women's Charter. There is a need for articles and business. The district has constructed a sewing factory for women cooperative in the Sake village of Moses Kotane local municipality. 7 local women are beneficiaries of this corporate sewing cooperatives. This should be a model of excellence and commitment. The name of the cooperative for protective clothing for the mining area in Tabazimbi. What-based GBV programs are in place, assisted by Department of Health and Social Development. There are GBV workshops that have been conducted by municipalities in conjunction with social development. In our weekly district command council, we are monitoring GBV in all locals, and progress is reported per village, jointly by social development and SAPS as GBV occurs. In conclusion, Madam Chair, through implementation of the concept, the district development model, we are on track to intensify our intergovernmental high impact programs. Also, the high impact projects like the Agri-Park that is from the National Department of Agriculture will greatly assist our agriculture in our area. There should also be constant monitoring and evaluation on gender policies to advance the empowerment of women. The district will also intensify programs collectively with other stakeholders on GBV and ensure notable reduction across the district. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. I think I must really say we appreciate the fact that all presenters stick to their time. And this is a time now for us to interact and have discussion. But on this one, before I leave, because I already apologize, there has been another meeting. Not that this one is not important. This one is equally important as the other one. And then I will hand over to my colleague, the policies in place, because policies is there to be implemented, but I'm not going to implement on to comment on that. But I'm sure that we will meet. And the fact that we can stick to time means there's a lot that we can achieve. Can I be excused now and hand over?
Honorable Butler.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And to the presenters, sorry. Ma'am, to the presenters, thanks.
Good afternoon, honorable members. Honorable members of the provincial legislature, honorable of the provincial legislature, Rep. Paul Sebeko, the executive mayors that are here, councillors that are here. Good afternoon, good afternoon. Now, thing that you like to be input, to be included in our review.
The person is not audible. She's cutting from time to time. Is it possible that Modise can find space that she's able to engage properly?
Now it's your time. Without forgetting that we have our one and only Deputy Speaker, Ntatele Chesa. Good afternoon, Ntate.
Kgotso mme.
I am now. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, now you're audible, Chair.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Chair, you are audible to me, though.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Oh,
We can hear you, Chairperson.
You can, we can hear you.
Hello?
Honorable Modire, we can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Good afternoon. Okay. Now it's a time for discussion. Okay.
I got the sticker to complete.
Okay. Thank you very much. Batsadi ke nako ya di trial le dipotso. Meli Peter Lenkopane a se ke a lutlwa le nna ba gaetsho ke a lutlwa ke bona mme Peter Lenkopane a tsholeditse letsogo ke nako mme o ka botsa ke a utlwagala gape mme Lenkopane your hands was up. Can you say whatever you wanted to say?
Thank you, Mudula Stilo. My name is Bisa Lenkopane. I'm coming.
Okay, Melbu Sale Draba. Melbu Sale
Lenkopane here, Mudula Stilo.
Mudula Stilo.
Yes, ma'am.
Lenkopane speaking, Mudula Stilo. Mudula Stilo, Lenkopane wa utlwala.
Ra go utlwa madam, ra go utlwa.
Oh, my name is Bisa Lenkopane. I'm coming from the Northwest Province.
Okay.
Northwest Provincial of the Portfolio Committee on Economic Development, Environment, and Agriculture and Rural Development. I'm also the acting provincial secretary of the ANC Women's League in the Northwest. I must indicate that having to participate on issues that are related to the women's, it was actually adopted gender equality. In the Northwest, we still have a number of unacceptable level of gender. The sex parity ratio in income earnings statistics 2018, women in this province has outnumbered men in the ratio 1:4.1. In the lowest earning brackets, men has also outnumbered women. Now, with female-headed households, we also have more female levels of multidimensional poverty. Mudula Stilo, the presentations that were put before us, but one must also indicate, based on the 2018 sex parity ratios in income earnings community survey and victim of crime survey, it can be established in this province, the equity is more on number. And in terms of equal opportunities, it is not taken into account. We still have this challenge of the absence of gender responsive budget. in other measures is as to how is their budgeting considering this factor. And the absence of gender responsive budget is of importance because it is part of addressing the issues in the charter. But if we still sit today without having such, it then says we are having a nice charter with different articles, policies, and other legislations that has to drive the implementations of the charter. The absence of monitoring tools for women emancipation policies is still a factor. When you listen to the presentation of Ngaka Molema, it speaks more of the structures like that of Bahuma Khadi. You listen to Bojanala is still saying the same, but you don't get the budget that is allocated to such structures in terms of showing how they embed them in their SDB as well as the IDPs, except for programs which are just operational. So we still have a challenge in terms of the municipal plannings, considering what is due to us as women in the charter. The lack of gender mainstreaming knowledge on gender issues and women empowerment approach on both department and municipal strategic documents is exactly what I'm saying, that the two municipalities that have just presented, they are not actually reflecting on how their indicators or their key performance areas in terms of both their either SDP or the IDP speaks to this issue of women empowerment, unfolding the articles of the charter. Basically, it is very clear that regardless of all the efforts, women are still poor. You listen to the presentation of Dr. that of Bojanala. The mayor speaks of the budget on PPE for uniform. The municipality has embedded in its SDB responding to the areas in the municipality where we have children who, and the municipality does not have a budget that speaks to responding to that, which is part of the article of the charter, and which says the municipality, whilst doing much they are doing, but they are not yet up to a standard of responding to the charter. Chair, allow me to put more emphasis on the two municipalities are mainly having Mahai. I don't want to say rural areas. These two district municipalities have got a higher percentage, villages. And in those villages, in terms of the statistics, you'll realize that the presentation that was outlining our statistics, it is very clear that Mahai are dominate to Akibome. Now, we are still lacking from the setup, these presentations before us of the two districts, by looking at them as a specific community whose voice must be heard in all issues around women. I must indicate that part of what we need to women and the economy. We cannot have a situation where we still have municipalities that are not responding to the radical economic transformation, considering the charter on Article 3. All the plans, all the policies, number 7. Article number 7 of the charter that speaks more of political and civic life. And the Mayor Fezang Molisiwa is an executive mayor. When you take the two district municipalities, I want us to look in authority, but we have Mayor Fezang from Bojanala not having the water service authority, which then says all the water services are now in the locals. Now, in one of the articles, number 5 of the charter, speaks of provision. Molema is one of the district municipalities that has been identified to be heavy in terms of water and sanitation. You go to all this. Now, how do you expect women when the charter in terms of its article number 5 speaks more of provision of water and sanitation to address the key needs of women and girls down there, and you have this municipality being unable to provide political and civic life in this what do we call that in the charter that
women must have access to leadership and decision making. Challenge of being like when they are supposed to be free from their political operations, they still go for now. When we look at this, it is very clear that we are still far from getting what the fight of 90s. Find a way of capacitating women mayors in Ngaka, Modire, Molema, not on operational budgets, but on implementing the IDP and activating a flexible approach to the Water Service Authority to respond to the charter. I must indicate that this example that I'm citing, Ngaka, Modire, Molema, also happens in our legislature. I have introduced myself to be the chairperson of the Economic Development Williams, who deals with issues of social development, that is all the social issues, including women. But when we come to the preparations of the inputs of women in this sitting, we are not given that opportunity in life. It is now given to acknowledging and respecting the political position of a chief whip. But we also have in the management, Honorable Kim Midupi, who is also part of the caucus management. Now, when issues of women are to be expressed and to be given attention, men takes off and they are leading us, and they don't have the tone and the feeling that we must have mechanism for access to effective developed gender-based policies. We must have gender rule for sex offenders must be reviewed. And the municipalities, the presentation from Ngaka, Modire, Molema, who says, but identified a serious challenge that needs more of the budget and activation of the whole public to have a better understanding and interpretation of gender-based violence into it, not in the form of their budget and IDP and better programs. As I pause, Chair, thank you.
No.
Mosadi o yana go lebetse.
Dipetso?
Chair, have you forgotten?
Ke bitsa ke bua ka go bua Medina Dipetso. Le baba, I'm so sorry.
Ke a leboga
Ke kopa gore le mpeng chance ke a itse gore ke tla bitsa batho yang.
Okay.
Ke kopa honorable members.
Module Stilo, Module Stilo, I'm getting a bit confused because when we started, we were going to talk about the Women's Charter, but I've been listening to most of the... Oh, ke a leboga. Me ke ne ke re ke bona ke nna confused because all the presentations tse re ntseng le tsona di bua ka gender this and gender that and gender this, and then ke ithetse ka re tlo bua ka Women's Charter and focus on women. Bitsa le Mfefane, the way outlining the issues ka teng, but ke batla go bua ka the gap between civil society and government. The problem we are having is that government does not work well with civil society in the Northwest province. That is why implementation is civil society. Civil society, Bagaitong, is not an enemy to government. It is just a second government at local, at community level. The other problem that we are having in the Northwest is that women are not empowered. You do the work as a woman and you are not paid. You'll be told all this type of stories. But you check all the men who did the work the same time with you, they were paid. And shoot of women who are in positions towards women who are not in positions. The Northwest province is leaving out programs, and at the end of the day, the women are suffering. Last 2 years back, there were a training of women on to do sanitary pads. It was done all the provinces. It was not done in the Northwest.
When we asked, we were told that the money was with the Premier's office, but when we asked about it, we were told that the money was given to the Department of Education, buying sanitary pads for our girls. I don't know what we are promoting in there. The other issue is that I listened in the morning, the presentation from other two districts and this district. There's no synergy. And the reason is because we never had a missionary in this province. So how do we expect the districts and the local municipalities? We are having the discussions on the gender bill. I'm so much disappointed about the Northwest status of women, because in other provinces, women, civil society, and all the other women in the provinces were called to come and discuss the gender bill. Don't participate in such things. Those are the questions I'm leaving open. And we want to know from the OSW, how did that happen and why is this going on and unnoticed by people who are supposed to do oversight? Because we don't have institutional mechanisms in all departments. We've got, they said Northwest is got 13.464% in agriculture. Who is doing the agriculture in this land? We are rural, we are a rural province. We had programs sending developer women. What happened to those programs? Because people are dying of hunger. And when you get to municipalities like Rustenburg, there are a lot of these where there are no incomes. So while we are busy trying to review the charters, can we please look at to work with other organizations and civil society organizations on the ground, collect all the information so that when we get here, we've got the input of as many people as the province has to the Women's Charter.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Chair, my name is Jeanette. Yeah, my voice, is it loud? My voice?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
You are audible, madam. You are audible, madam. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Look, which actually it's a problem in Northwest, and I'm just wondering. I'm seriously wondering, what are we doing as women? Because this actually talks about us as women. If we've got single mothers, we've got single parents as mothers, we've got Bonkoko, we've got Bo Osi, who are actually heading the families, and that means something is not happening in this province. So I will actually make an input that how do you empower women? And when I'm talking about empowerment, I'm not talking about a campaign. I'm not talking about a campaign, women doing things for themselves. And when I am talking about that, I'm also looking at economic development, economic empowered. Because as I speak now, when you look at the procurement system sent by men or they are front, or if they are there, they don't have resources to actually pull up themselves and build up business that will help them. So I would say that this charter will need to look at the serious inputting on issues of as a province. Housewives, can they get grant? If people can get grant, why the housewife can't they get grant? Those women are taking care of children, taking care of their husband, taking care of their house, taking care of for them, or it becomes their life becomes sustainably developed. So the issue of poverty rate in Northwest Province, it's something that is very, very worrying. I mean, we are doing about the land issues to empower women so that women can work in their land. I think those issues becomes very important in Northwest Province when we talk about those issues of women economic development or women empowerment, especially in the Northwest Province.
you can't even talk about it. When women themselves are against, when women are in political power or at work position, they are supported in a manner that is also have a support system by other women. It can't be that in Northwest, women always suffer because of men are actually using other women against women. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Medibeto. Me Francina Toku.
Youth, you know.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Me Francina Toku.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
One has been listening very attentively to the presentations, and to a greater extent, they keep on repeating gender mainstreaming rather than women's charter. Because when we speak gender, we are speaking everybody. But our thinking was on this particular matter. We are going to Association of School Governing Bodies. We'll wonder why in all the presentations that were made, nothing is mentioned of girls. That the same government that we are having is able to freely distribute suffering to get access to see a girl learner being actively participating in the society in future. When I know how marginalized women are, because when he presented the issue of the population, Bojanala being there is because of the mining. It says women are still marginalized in terms of being economically active in the mining, in the employment. But also when you are listening to my two sisters, we still have women that are in office, but that can appoint other women in higher positions. When you look at the employment, you are asking yourself, how many DGs are women if we have ME? How many spokespersons are women if we are saying we are serious? And you'll find that there is no progress that we have made. Now the COVID-19 has exposed us the lockdown, but who is to defend these women that are being harassed in the home, in the transport, in the sports ground, everywhere a woman is not safe? I'm following the Facebook, the social media now. The human trafficking, it's also targeting women and girls. Every day there is a girl or a woman that is are not even assisting us, because when people go after abuse, rape, or anything, they go to the police station. They also still there suffer secondary abuse, which is still a problem. Even after there are 2 new legislations that were signed during the lockdown, but you realize their implementation will still be far-fetched. One would love to hear the municipalities not mixing words, because for now the presentations that were done by the Bojanala and the Ngaka Molema, you will realize they were sinking some information, because they have plans but they can't implement them. They either have plans but they don't have budget. They either have costed the plans but the budget is shifted during the middle of the year to wherever people think it is more important. That from where we come from as women, we were not even had a latitude of attending school. Women are still struggling wherever we are. And if we are not going to change this women's charter to make it implementable, this charter will still be debated. One will want peace, but in all the departments, before we can go out and say the private sector must assist us, one would love to see the public sector leading in terms of making sure women are recognized and women are respected. Women are still occupied. The presentation that was made, the first presentation, it indicated, even the second one, the fiscal one, it indicated found in many numbers at the lowest economic level.
the whole society or the whole community is suffering. I still believe when you empower the approach as government going forward, we need to change the 12 articles. We need maybe to start to cluster them, and like it happened with the Millennium Developmental Goals, maybe on law and administration of justice, what do we want to see happening? On maybe on number 6 on social services, what do we want to see? Maybe on article number 10 of violence against women, what do we want to see happening? So that we must have a clear plan, a clear implementation plan with a clear date to say within the coming 2-3 stone, how will we be able to measure us? We've got the Ministry of Women and Children, and there's a sentence of a ministry there that could monitor that. And we also have in the presidency, we've got a ministry that could monitor the implementation. But I think from now onward, we want to see them happening within this particular year in terms of health, in terms of water and sanitation. Why are municipalities not making sure there is water? The leading in terms of agriculture, in the infrastructure and environment, that is article number 5, what is happening in it. In terms of article 4 of education and training, how far are we, so that we have clear deadlines, we've got clear target on how we want to reach. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Mama Francina Toku, which is Komoto, Lesego,
Miche,
Memory Herald, then Hatikim Beth Apple.
Miche.
Those are the 5. Those are the 5 hands that I'm going to allow them to speak. Ma?
Chairperson, me too.
Hello?
Me too, Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I was saying, can I also be recognized?
I don't know you, ma'am.
Williams.
Oh, yes, ma'am. You'll be the last one. You'll be the last one.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you to all the Emma. Yes, ma. I'm here. Am I not audible? Hello. Thank you very much. I will start.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to present to yes, I just wanted to okay, I
can hear you. I can hear you, ma'am.
Yes, I wanted to say a few points based on the presentation, the FFC, and I'm also an assessor as well as moderator. Yeah, issues on gender mainstreaming, issues on a whole, gender-based violence, gender planning, and gender-sensitive budgeting. So I just wanted to say that it is important that strategic facilitation and development right from the onset for the next 5 years are developed by people who understand the issues that gender and particularly issues and challenges that are facing women. The second thing that I wanted to say and to make people aware of, I hear a lot of people talking about lack of skills and lack of training among officials that are dealing with issues of women and issues of gender. And I want to point out to the fact that the National School of Government offers training. I mean, right now, because of COVID, they also have training which it is a 5-day workshop. It is an accredited program where you even get the certificate, and the program covers issues like gender, mainstreaming. And I know that when we talk about gender, because when we look at gender sense or gender aggregated, data that we use, we then find that a lot of women are left out. So things like gender-based violence, gender responsive planning, the course is there, it is accredited. So I just want to encourage that those that are in positions of authority who can influence, we can ensure that people can attend this. But also, I would like to agree that the entry points for us to be able to deal with poverty among women is to make sure that our procurement is also gender sensitive. I was very disappointed when I was doing a training with the no, not national but Northwest Provincial Treasury Department, that the Department of Education last year they had a tender, yeah, the sanitary towels at school. But not only was it given to men, it was given to Pakistan. And these are the tenders, these are sanitary towels that had to be distributed to poverty-stricken municipalities. And we are taking advantage of these tenders that are coming up and saying that we are targeting women. We are going to be talking about how women are left out. And yeah, even 25 years, I said that this morning. And also I hear a lot of municipalities got the challenges. They don't have gender sensitive policies. We are here. So we are people with the knowledge that we have acquired. It is painful that we have to have provinces like Western Cape appreciating and using us more than Mughai. So I am pleading and saying that we want to help where we can help and make use of us as Bomme so that we can leave a better legacy for our youth and for our young people so they don't go through the struggles that we have gone through. Thank you very much, Meke Lebo.
Thank you very much, Me. Memory, Herald. Memory. Memory Herald. Oh, it's not there.
I think she should unmute.
Let me call Beth Apple. Oh, okay. Memory Herald. No, she will come back again. Let me give me Beth Apple. Beth Apple.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Because we identify the yellow more.
All right. Okay, noted. Am I audible? I can. Thank you very much. My name is Miss Bethel. My name is Miss Bethel Apologrini. Okay, ma'am. Mine is just a general comment when coming to women issues, because really we cannot keep quiet the way things are happening in the women world. We've got a serious problem when coming to the way women are being treated in such a way that I think now my suggestion is maybe if we as a province the way we can assist women in all the spheres. But according to even all the speakers here, there's no progress at all. So maybe if we can have, we can sit down and check if we can in any way have a monitoring tool to check, like in each and every department, we must check how women are being treated in this and this and this and that. And then we can those things can be presented, and then we can have, our government has got a budget for women that is normally being used maybe during Women's Month. But some of the department, as I'm speaking, they don't see those things. You'll never see women being taken out just not for leisure, but just to debrief, because we've got many things on our shoulders. So those are the things that need a monitoring tool to check with each and every department, every district, every local, to check if really women are being taken care of the way they are supposed to. We are talking about, secondly, the empowering women. Where are those bursaries that will be maybe specifically for women, working or not working, to ensure that we empower them academically? I'm saying working because we have a serious problem when coming to women, working women being empowered with bursaries or scholarship. Once you produce your salary advice, you will be told that you don't qualify. And at the same time, we are talking about women-headed families, whereby, yes, we are working, but you can't afford paying school fees. You have to raise kids, you have to pay them school fees. When you check at your budget, you are willing to go to school to empower yourself. A serious problem like like women ill-treating other women. Really, we as women, women are not representing us well in the working classes. We really have a serious problem. I'm so disappointed in most of the time, seeing women, a woman treating another woman in a way that really you can't stand it. Some of us even here, I don't know this one. Maybe Luana, we should intro.
Although we pass to next speaker, then I'll set up issue of sound.
Hello, online.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, this one that are oppressing other women. And in most of the cases, again, we have got another women again in the working class or outside the working class that are used by men, like other speakers has been saying things. Again, we have a problem of safety of women in the working places. I think, Luan, it must have something, a tool or on each and every department to check how safe access, whereby women are sometimes being even abused or nearly abused by maybe strangers or even harassed by by men. So those are the things we must try to look into, to try to alleviate or to reduce the abuse. And then another thing is about the women and girls that are being sexually abused. I think now, according to my take, the judgment or the sentence that is in place, that is used right now, is not fair. It's not enough. Why I'm saying this? Because we see every day or every time in South Africa, when we check the stats, every second or every minute, a woman or a girl child is being killed, is being abused, is being. But the very same perpetrators, they don't reduce this abuse. My concern is why the abuse itself doesn't come to an end, or even the state at least doesn't, is still at high rocket place number, because of, I think, the pinch itself to tell the cabinet that we are not satisfied about the judgment that is given to these boys. Also, we've got brothers, we've got uncles. This thing of death sentence, it takes two sides. At times it's not nice, at times it's nice, because I also agree that there are some wrongly accused situation. But honestly speaking, the sentence itself or the judgment itself, it must be strengthened in one way or the other. I think there we can see the 15 years or something, of which is not enough. That is why these people can't even stop doing those disgusting manners unto men. We are not safe as women in South Africa. We are totally not safe. When you stay alone, you can't sleep, you can't rest, even in the night, because you ask yourself, who is actually looking at you? It can't be normal. It can't be correct that as other people, you can't have rest in life. So in those few words, I really thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, ma'am. I'm going back to Merrill. Merrill. Memory. Memory. Ma'am. No.
Can
No.
Memory unmute?
No.
Chair, can we ask Memory to unmute?
Okay. Memory, Molete.
Thank you so much, Madam Program Director. I'm there. Thank you so much. Thanks. Number one,
okay.
Next year we will be going for elections, for the municipal elections, local municipality elections. Can I ask the councillors and the administrative officers, the municipal managers and their officials, to really right now sit down with their IDPs and try to do the SWOT analysis of what they have achieved, what have they not been able to achieve in the 5 years of their IDPs, and draw up an impact analysis or impact assessment and the deliverables that they have been able to manage to deliver, and identify the gaps. And out of the gaps, come up with the remedial measures, recommendations to fill up the gaps and the remedial measures, and time to time their processes to say, in whatever they have failed to achieve in this 5 years of the IDP, how do they intend correcting it? I am bothered by the fact that we establish and develop the IDPs every 5 years, but no one is able to say, where have I gone wrong? What have I not been IDPs? Those IDPs would be informed by the SWOT analysis and the remedial measures and the corrective measures that they are intending to put in place. Because it is so disheartening and so painful that the IDPs are skyrocketed and lifted up, and they are lifting up the expectations on the part of people, but nobody is looking at as to what have they been able to achieve in the past 25 years. Let our new IDPs for next year be informed by the remedial measures of the recommendations that we are going to get to fill up the gaps. In your IDP, be honest out of your integrity and self-introspection. Why would you deserve to be elected back into the office or into power if you have not been able to do it in the past 5 years? How do you want to convince the community that you are willing to rectify it and you would be able to do it in the next 5 years? Can I say the way in which our government has actually done things in this era of COVID? Because I realize that there is a possibility, not even a possibility, but a probability materialized for South African National Defence Force to be released out of their barracks, out of their camps, to go into the community to respond to COVID. We had COVID from the first week of March, but by the 26th of March, the SANDF were in all the corners and routes and passages of South Africa. Why does it take the statistics of the, I'm looking at the statistics of the investigators that are giving me the information. 46 to 45, almost 50 women and children every day that are being trafficked. Why is our government not able to release the South African National Defence Force into the community to fight, knowing very well the halfway houses, the depots that people are talking about, exchanging WhatsApp, giving them the addresses? Why are they not able to raid those houses? Lastly, I would like everyone to understand that when we are talking about women empowerment and gender mainstreaming, we're not only talking quantitatively. We are supposed to talk quantitatively and qualitatively. It is not only about having 50% women, 90% women. It is about the quality of competently qualified people in leadership who are not there to window screen, whom we will be able to say, we have been disappointed by women who have gone into those positions, but they are not delivering. There is nothing that we can actually mark out in our checklist to say they have done that. And I personally feel ashamed. I always ask people, I'm the only one. I feel ashamed, and I always ask people, what are you celebrating on Women's Day? Why are you celebrating? What is it that you can mark out in our speaking about Comrade Betha Kowa and Lillian Goyi and so on, those that have passed on? Why are we not talking about the comrades of 2000? What have we done? What have we done? So we need to really talk about what we have empowered, what we have done for the women of today, and say we have something to celebrate on the women of today. Otherwise, really, women are disgruntled by having to go and celebrate all the women that are in this platform. It is not that we are saying our government is not working, but we are saying, really, is this what we can write home about? Where is the implementation? And I'm encouraging all the people in the local government, local municipalities, from the focal points in place, we get people to establish the policies to put them in place. It is so painful that from 1998, when we had the National Office on the Status of Women, which came up with the gender machinery policy, the gender empowerment and gender equality policy, with the gender units and the appointments of gender focal persons in our offices, municipalities still do not have the GFPs and the gender more years for a legislation or a policy in South Africa to be implemented. I'm talking about the gender policy framework that has been established in 1998, but has not even been implemented in our municipalities.
To call upon Honorable Priscilla Williams. Honorable Priscilla.
Yes, I'm speaking, Chair. Can you hear me? Honorable Chair,
Yes.
can you hear me? Yes, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Can I speak, Chair? Okay, thank you very much, Chair. From the session in the morning, largely, one has two things that one has picked up. The session from the beginning so that one can hear and understand the intention of the program. But what is will specifically deal with issues that have to do with gender parity. That would be a separate session from us reviewing the Women's Charter. Because for now, we have, much as we are from what is it that needs to be reviewed in the Charter. We have spoken about the ills, the challenges that society, women in particular, are experiencing, the setbacks we suffer, but largely we are speaking about gender parity, the inability for women to benefit from certain things, and we've not spoken to the intention needed to speak, to look at all of the articles, from Article 1 to Article 12, one that talks about equality, and to Article 12 that ends up on media, and speak about participants. We have not, in principle, dealt with why the session is called, more than we dealt with what worries or what challenges systems we are operating in. There's women in business that have raised their issues. When you look at the contents of the charter, the first article talks to equality. And when you look at the initial sentences of the charter, can one be protected? There's somebody that is playing music.
Lucy, we understand it's Friday afternoon, colleagues.
Yes, Article 1 that talks about equality, Chair. When you look at the contents of Article 1, about all the elements that are now dissected in every article that follows. Now, generally, the Women's Charter talks about the equality of women in benefiting on every aspect of development of the country. And how do we ensure that women element is addressed not on the basis of favor, but on the basis of capacity, on the basis of development, on the basis of a right to benefit. Now, the charter speaks to all of those elements when it dissects your law, administration and justice, economy, education and training, development, infrastructure and environment, social services. But when you look at number one addresses all of the other factors except Article 10. That is specifically only isolating the issue on violence against women, or that is not addressed from a perspective of equality, because in this case, it brings the victimhood of women suffering at the hands of males, or women suffering at the hands of other women. And how do we as women speak to that element, and what we need to address or what we need to submit? For me, as the Northwest, we need to look at where is the charter lacking. All the previous elements reflected in the charter being implemented and how far, and which areas or who were the beneficiaries, what programs were put in place in all spheres of government to try and address the elements as municipality report that talks about them being a water services authority or them being, no. What does the charter speaks about, and how have we been able to respond to issues as raised by the charter as a municipality, as a province, and as a government? And how should those needs, what should be implemented? How should those that needs to be implemented? Who should be at the center of implementing? And for whom should, and the role players that are bringing elements of benefits to the people? What are the programmatic experiences with review we are talking about? Chair, that is the contribution I'm looking at, to say, as the Northwest, those are the areas we must look at strong, is that women bow to different elements and segments or get overlooked or get fight against each other. On this should not be the last session, but it should be the beginning of the many sessions that will unfold different types of programs that are going to speak to all the issues that are talking to. When I'm looking at the messages that are coming through, there are different sectors to be reflected in the charter that we must look at the charter and say, how do we address this element, and does it not expose this sector when we want to deal with it as a standalone from the broader team of women? Because women as a sector are victimized, are under. Now, if we are now to isolate women that calls themselves LGBTI, and we also furthering their victimhood in that process, we need to start talking. The Gender Commission must bring documentation that talk about us having clustered gender issues as women issues. But it means we need to broaden the scope of education even to men on what gender parity means. But it should be a standalone topic and a discussion away from this one, because this one was convened specifically for the Northwest to do or make submission on a review. Do we think the charter needs to be reviewed? Is it relevant or it's not relevant? What are the areas of review? And how do we think these areas of review in those, so that one can be able to find expression in, to throw in a view to assist in us zeroing in our views on what the session really needed to achieve and what comes out as a strong view. And thank you very much, Chair. I know that I might have taken a lot of your time, but let me appreciate for the opportunity that is given to us. Chairperson, I'm done. Chairperson.
Deputy Speaker, please assist.
You are unmuted, Member Herolds. You can, whilst we are waiting for the chair, you can continue talking.
Hey,
Yes.
Hey, technology ena ke khona go solve ka batho ba IT ba nthusa nna le gana go unmute ba ga itse ke itumetse go khona go bua ne ke re transfer linya, we must link the tertiary
okay. Yeah.
and we must also link with the stats SA so that we determine the database of what status our women have in the different districts of economic participation, and then which women can be moved up to a next level, so that when tenders come out or they can be part of the procurement processes in government, they've been trained and they can deliver those services. What we need to know is that we have to take women from where they are up to the next level. If our reports can't report on that, it means we haven't done what we were supposed to do. There's always slashing out at OSW for the other 100,000 because we've been in limbo 7 months. Social development or office of the when you talk to departments and their women empowerment programs or report, they will tell you, no, we have done this for our staff and we've done that for our staff and we are internal looking. But in my view, every department must have a program for women out there and how to uplift them and how to empower them. So once we do the research and we know what the training needs are, we can move our women from the one position to the next position. And then I wanted to say that, let's say we give land to women. We need to give land to women. We have included the whole value chain process, where we want to get from where the woman got the land, alle empowered, the tricks of the trade, alle mentorship, so that when she's left with that project, cash flow. Because I had the opportunity to go with the Women Portfolio Committee at National Parliament to visit projects in Northwest. Most were men-led. There were very few women. And even the men-led projects, this is not sustainability, because there's not a whole value chain process included. That's our biggest struggle. So we need research database. Where do we come from and where do we move to? We are strongly lobbying for a gender-based violence council for the province where all the stakeholders can be on one platform, where we can talk. We recently had the Women's Provincial Conference where we had civil society and everybody involved, which was part like a gender machinery. We know that national gender machinery is dead, provincial gender machinery is dead, but we are working to revive it. At the moment, the OSW has only 3 staff. People who have left or passed on have not been replaced. So we hope where we are now, we are settled now in the Premier's office, that we will get the support to build the unit. Documents, people are tired of talking. I think I've touched everything that I wanted to say. Colleagues, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been a struggle since this morning, but ke itumetse gore ke kgone go bua le lona. Ke nna Malerato Memory Harold. Ke a leboga.
Honorable Modise.
Honorable Tebogo, o na le problem ya connection. Let's proceed. What I want to check, I see there is Lesigo and Kinte. Who would like to follow? Kinte.
Can I go through?
Please unmute so that I can hear you.
My name is Kinse Badirwang. I am from Mafikeng in our beautiful Northwest Province, advocates for survivors of rape and gender-based violence. And I'm also an author of a book called Katie's Arrow, which is a narrative of me surviving gender-based violence, surviving gender-based violence, gangsterism, and all that. So my NPO ego a village called Situmopak, ne Lompak, Tenko Hatkikai, Kohaiko Northwest. So my concern is I founded my organization, Pelech Movement, in 2012, ne? And then it was me trying to break the silence on rape, you know, and trying to share my story as a survivor of multiple rapes and gender-based violence. So that is why I founded that organization. But I founded it, I opened that organization in 2012, né? And then today, as I'm speaking to you now, it's 2020, né? And MEC of Social Development, of Arts and Culture, Education. You know, it has been a very difficult road because now what has been a trend, you know, chooses to support women and children. Really, it's something that is beyond me because we cannot only, you know, use certain individuals or certain organizations, you know, that are really trying to support victims of rape and gender-based violence. So I just want this opportunity to say, if I am Kinse Badirwang and I have this small organization that is not supported by government, and every year, but the work that we're doing, I don't think the work that my organization is doing is being recognized by my government, by my provincial government, and the way our province treats civil society in Northwest. You know, you would think that we're enemies, and still we rise and are expected to still, you know, serve our people, serve our communities, and yet we are not getting the support. So my question is,
as an author, you know, me, as an author of a book that is being recognized, even me getting a recognition certificate from as a human rights defender SA. And also my story is going to be adopted into a gender-based violence response campaign by BET Africa. And my very own province treats me like work that I'm doing in my community during the COVID-19. When COVID-19 came to our shores on the 26th of March, I know my NPO is responsible for like 6 to 7 villages. Yet I am not development by whatever that civil society in our provinces are trying to fill the gap, you know, to try and be a supportive structure to government. You understand? So now I'm like thinking there is something very wrong with our government in terms of, I am speaking now on behalf of rape survivors, on behalf of victims of sexual crimes, and the work that I've done over the past 6 years, you know, over the past 6 years, not even being supported, because now the more you do your work and you excel and you are being recognized by other countries, the more you are being sidelined that you are trying to assist. You understand? So now my concern is why is Northwest treating civil society like enemies? You know, because now our social development, you know, with me, my own personal experience, every year for the past 6 years, when it's 16 days of activism, whoever is the minister, the MEC, whoever is the minister, she or he is going to call me to say, Kinsu, we need your help and we are going to support. After that whole thing, they don't even come to see, you know, they just, the Northwest province. Ne? I'm representing the Northwest province in Denmark. When we talk about gender-based violence and the progress that my own small organization that is based in a small village in Northwest, and during the COVID-19, during the lockdown, I went out there and restructured my focus on gender. That my organization is being go and get food parcels, to go and get basic sanitary towels, and to go and try and get assistance, because now it's like when you do your job to the best of your ability, you become an enemy to social development. You become an enemy to all these departments that you are so in your own small capacity trying to, you know, to assist. It's not about what the government can do for you, but what you can do to assist the government. Because right now, the work that is going to be adopted into a 26-part drama series to highlight the gender as an NPO that is really putting and contributing so much to the wellness and support of our women and children in South Africa, in my province, sorry. And now my story is going to be adopted into this drama. My story as a multiple rape survivor is going to represent Africa, and yet I am not being recognized by my own province, because I am only being recognized by August Women's Month. And they know that, our province know that it's relevant for the Department of Social Development to call me and say, Kinsey, please, with the work that you do and your organization, that is not fair. The organizations that are being supported are the organizations that have like personal relationships with me, with our principals, our premiers, our NPOs, our MECs, you know, and our officials. So if I got if my organization in terms of gender-based violence, particularly focusing on rape, and now and also my story is going overseas, and my book, I'm not selling my book. This is a book that talks about my rape and how I survived the rape as a girl who now this book is going to be sold, is going to be bought in every, is going to be procured to American university and colleges. And right now I am being sponsored to study gender-based violence with the John Hopkins Medical Society by the American consulate. That is what I'm doing right now. And my own province does not even recognize the work that I do, does not even support my organization and the work that I do to support women and children and try to get, because now I came to seek support for my people back in the Northwest. So there is definitely something that is wrong with our province. There is definitely, if civil society is not being supported, and if people have personal issues about certain organizations or individual. I'm an author. I decided to break the silence and be a voice. In a couple of months, my story will be told in Africa. My story as a survivor of rape and gender and all forms of gender-based violence is going to be told in other countries. So how do I start to acknowledge then for is not even recognized by my premier, is not even recognized by the departments that I report to. So that is my problem. We cannot even we cannot even say this women, this Rato municipality. They called me last year to say they had, I don't know if the stats were correct, to say they had 3.5 or 3.6 young girls in schools who were like impregnated by men in the surrounding mining areas. So when they call, that is not going to assist us to move forward in terms of addressing gender-based violence. And if there's one thing that I must say with the course that I'm doing, that I've been in America, I realized that for South Africa to even place gender-based violence as a pillar in social development, that is so wrong. We need to reverse that, because there is a gap. That is why I can even stand now with stats essay to say the stats that they are presenting to us is wrong. While we have a gap between, from, if I can give an example, if we sit with one survivor of victim of rape, you understand, and we follow all the processes, South Africa is so far behind. That's why we can never ever get to crack gender-based violence, because now the processes are all wrong. Social development should be incorporated into the Department of Health, because we don't have time. I can't really go into details on how that is supposed to, restructure the way gender-based violence is being handled in our country. And that is my plea, that is my concern about our Northwest province. We don't have support as civil society, and even if there's a budget, we don't know where it goes to. And at the end of the day, they bring in consultants to come and get stats from us, and the most embarrassing part is like they hire somebody from Limpopo or KZN, or that is just about money. Because when those people come and do a review with civil society to say what have we done and what have we and what can we improve, they're not even there. So it's just the money of gender-based violence as advocates of the well-being of our women and children, addressing poverty, child-headed families, and child-headed families. So I think what South Africa needs to do is just to try and have one gender-based violence center in each province, so that center is going to have that's where they are going to get their correct stats from one victim of rape, because there is a huge gap, on the processes that must have that particular victim. Does he or she has a sanitation? Do they have do they stay in a proper house? Do they have like medical records, or do they have like documents, documents with your home affairs? So that is my plea to say, I am attending this meeting and I'm speaking on behalf of women. Please do something, because because now you are not performing.
Okay.
The
Thanks,
the
ma'am.
the the status of women is not performing. Status of children is not performing. We cannot be doing that in our province. It's like the Department of Social Development is non-existent. Please, if you need to improve the work that you do, partner and treat civil society, your NPOs and your NGOs properly. You know, support them, give them training,
Kinze, thank you very much, Mayor. I think we will follow you up. I
Yes.
think we would like to, we appreciate what you have done so far. It's very useful that such practical experiences are communicated. I'm concerned is that we gave a commitment about timeframes for today. And so we must respect people who also would like to add a word or two. But there are people who have already spoken, bring our discussions to some form of indication of what we should do. One of the crucial points that were made by Priscilla Williams, if I may call her that, that's her name, I think, Parliament to hold over parity issues and so on. I think let us accept there has been very useful contributions today from participants, broadly speaking, people who contributed, from the panelists who made remarks today, and but also most importantly, what was contributed, and I think also including those of you who correctly put some of your views in the chat, implications not only for Parliament, but for provincial legislatures, as well as local municipalities in the districts as well, so that those things that can be dealt with immediately, that do not have to wait for the review process itself, but can be attended to immediately, must be attended to, as well as those that in the medium term can be done. The policy issues can then be attended to as and when we get the opportunity to do so. I just thought I should say those words, and then request is from a word or two from any of the presenters. Maybe we will not give it to State South Africa, to FFC and so on, but request, say, the mayors, the two mayors of the districts, just in brief, and not to go said here today, but generally to having welcomed us here, to say a word or two so that we can then wrap up today's meeting. Is Honorable Tebogo reconnected, or is she still disconnected?
Deputy Speaker, she's still disconnected.
Okay, all right. Let's give each of the executive mayors present here from the districts. They were our hosts, so to speak, a word or two, so that we can then wrap up.
Thank you much. Thank you very much, the inputs of all people who participated in this session. And from the beginning, I remember the inputs made by Honorable Bita, Mebusa, Meprizila, I think Memalete to indicate few that I've heard. But I think on the issue that was raised by municipality, we need to indicate, or there were templates that were given to municipality. Maybe if the presentation was not in line with what the charter was indicating, from the template that was sent to municipality, it needed us to indicate whether there are achievements, where there are challenges, and what collectively with the local municipality is supposed to be discussing. But I just want to indicate, or this is the template that was given to us. And I'm also acknowledging the shortfalls, Honorable Deputy Speaker, and aligning myself with what Honorable President indicates. To say from the presentation of Mebusa, for example, it is clear that right from the top, from the OSW, the gender machinery, etc., we found wanting. I think after the engagement that we are in here, we need to follow up on what we have agreed upon, because as the province, residents of the province, we know what is awaiting from us is just to, if we have principals, to report to the principals and then request the implementation of what we made as a way forward today. But safe to 7 articles. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Next is the Executive Mayor of Modire Molema. Let me, in the absence of an additional input, say that the points that I want to emphasize, please, is that what was said here today was absolutely rich. The experiences are critical. In other words, at operational and implementation difficulties that has been pointed out, and practice. So we have to deal with them both on an ongoing basis. So it's not a bad idea that perhaps as a result of how people feel and where they are at right now, what's figural to them, what pinches them now are those issues that they raised. Our responsibility as the overall followers of the process is to harvest what belongs where, and then to share it with all the practical stakeholders. And we are also conscious that people have ideas. They are in these meetings because they have practical possible solutions. But please, we need the humility to accept that our contribution, individual contribution, must go into a pot so that others can see how they strengthen those solutions and they build on those proposals so that we have bigger and more appropriate solutions that is inclusive, that is responsive to many people than only those that's relevant to what we are trying to achieve. I really wish to appreciate the contributions, and we noted some of your comments. We note clearly every district present here, every municipality that may have been here, even those who are not here, include to create opportunities to deal with these issues in the neighborhoods and in the municipalities where this is taking place. A catalytic process to create an opportunity to raise issues for review, for practice, and so on. So thank you very much. I really, on behalf of the other members who otherwise would that worked hard to, and this afternoon, we need more opportunities such as this to interact with one another and to generate creative solutions so that people, at the end of the day, their lived experiences reflects their satisfaction with the work we do. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your.
Thank you, Deputy
Thank
Speaker.
you very
Thanks for the opportunity.
Go well, enjoy your weekend.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. We really appreciated your presence and your observations. And yeah, thank you very much. As we sleep today, many of you and all of us will have additional ideas triggered by what was said in the meeting today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that is behind Sality.
Thank you very much, honorable leaders, and good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Night. Night.